have for you a clip here from a recent interview with Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene that is so bizarre, ridiculous, dishonest, obviously, and might backfire, likely will backfire on the Republican Party. We'll get into that more after the clip, but get ready. The vibe coming from Marjorie Greene too is just strange. So it's on the subject of impeachment, and she really wants her Republican colleagues to be in favor of an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden, despite the fact that, even though you'll hear her claim otherwise, they haven't actually uncovered evidence to prove the things they are accusing President Joe Biden of, as we've gone through a gazillion times now. And she's very upset that the inquiry hasn't happened yet, or there doesn't seem to be as much momentum as she had hoped within her party. And here was this.
That in mind, and again, going to what you were just talking about with David, you introduced articles of impeachment on day one since Biden took office. What is the holdup? Because I feel like, and we said this last time you were on the show, how much more evidence do we need to make this happen?
Well, like some evidence. You could just find like one singular batch of evidence.
I can't comprehend that we need any more evidence. We have so much. Let's talk about what an impeachment inquiry is, Miranda. Thank you for bringing that up. An impeachment inquiry is just asking the question. We're just asking members of Congress, do you think we should inquire about impeachment? It's not saying, do you want to impeach? It's saying, should we just ask the question? And at this point right now, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with Republicans that we can't just, hey guys, maybe ask the question. Maybe we should just ask and think about it and look.
What is happening right now? Is this a mental breakdown of some sort? Just ask the question. Just ask the question. She tilts her head back and forth. Yikes.
Edit and investigate in a much broader way and with more subpoena power. Just ask the question. So I'm at home at my house in Rome. I've been at home hanging out with all of the great, wonderful, normal people that actually have a brain and have common sense and are asking me every day, Marjorie, when is Congress going to move on with this impeachment inquiry? And I can't comprehend we haven't done it yet.
Congresswoman, we're running.
Okay, we'll stop it there. Whew. Very upset over this situation. Wow. Okay, so it's interesting because, as I said, they don't have evidence that would justify impeaching President Biden or even launching an inquiry. They've been doing this House Oversight Committee investigation into Biden for so long now, and as we've walked through each step of the way, have been unable to prove or even get evidence that would be concerning enough to further investigate and try to prove these claims, these accusations. And I think Lev Parnas, the former stooge of Rudy Giuliani, summed it up when he wrote a letter to James Comer saying, I will come in front of you and testify to the fact that this is a wild goose chase. I tried to find for Rudy Giuliani, for Trump, for years, these very, or evidence of these very accusations. I tried, I looked, and it's not there. This is a conspiracy theory. I think that's well put. It is a conspiracy theory. But based on this conspiracy theory about Biden, Marjorie Greene and Lauren Boebert, as we've talked about, are really putting a lot of pressure on their colleagues to launch this inquiry. And the right flank of the party, those two and many others, are wanting to do this to excite the hardcore MAGA base. But that's bad for the moderate Republicans or the Republicans in swing districts, because to the broader American electorate, it's going to seem so radical and just off the rails and unnecessary and partisan if they moved forward with especially an impeachment vote, which is what impeachment inquiries lead to. They would never launch an inquiry and then go, you know what, we looked into it and Biden, you're good, obviously. And so it would be inevitably leading to a vote, which would be disastrous for the swing district Republicans as we approach an election. Before discussing that further, here's an example of also Lauren Boebert indicating that a lot of pressure is being put on.
And I've asked all of them, are you 100% fine with moving forward when y'all get back from this long-ass break to impeach Joe Biden? They all said yes, but of course, we're waiting on the speaker. Your turn to sound off.
Dan, we absolutely should be back in Washington, D.C. With articles of impeachment for Joe Biden. It's been 2 months since I became the first House Republican in 24 years to force a vote on an impeachment inquiry.
So the thing is, I play that for you because she keeps saying, as we covered yesterday, that it's time to impeach. The evidence is there to impeach. We don't need an inquiry. Let's do it. And if the inquiry doesn't move fast enough, or if the articles of impeachment don't move fast enough, then I'm going to force a vote on the floor. Meaning, she thinks it's already justified to impeach Biden. Marjorie Greene's saying it's just about asking the question. Just ask the question. Just ask the question. What question are you asking if you think you've proven it already? And then you have James Comer in that interview we talked about after the latest round of this whole charade. He went on Fox News and got asked, are you going to be able to prove it? And said, I sure hope so. So they're all on different pages as to what their dishonest line's going to be about if they've been able to prove it yet or not. Or if they've proved some of it, but need an inquiry to prove more, or it's already fully proven, they can do a impeachment vote. But the kind of absurdity of this is clear based on the facts, and also clear based on how other Republicans are responding to it. We went through in a different Lauren Boebert segment reporting on these different quotes, and we'll get to later in this one, Ken Buck calling it out as impeachment inquiry, but impeachment theater. This impeachment inquiry is impeachment theater. And so it's obviously even not good enough, the dishonesty that is, for some of these Republicans who are concerned with other things or don't want to be hurt politically because they look so radical and partisan for impeaching Biden over absolutely nothing. And this political threat and potential damage was pointed out during a recent panel on CNN.
Of his party until you get to election season, and he's working with such narrow majority that when you get into the majority makers, those are not the right-wing part of the conference, right? And all of a sudden, Kevin McCarthy has a different imperative immediately in front of him
let's
politically.
Just take the moderates in New York who gave him the majority.
Exactly, and we keep saying moderates, but these are people in battleground districts that will determine the control of Congress. And I would also just note, if one of the big potential vulnerabilities of a Biden reelection effort is an enthusiasm problem, we're seeing that in small donor stuff. You want to know how to juice enthusiasm on the Democratic side? Launch an impeachment inquiry and launch impeachment and watch what that will do to help rally Democrats to Biden's cause. We actually saw it with Donald Trump in 2019 and 20 before the pandemic hit with the first impeachment.
And that's what you were getting at, that you're hearing from the Biden White House.
Yeah, exactly.
And campaign.
If Republicans overplay their hands, that will increase Democratic enthusiasm and that it will backfire on those swing district Republicans who.
So what he's touching on there is that the White House is a little bit excited about the prospect of this impeachment situation, because of the way that it would motivate Democratic voters and turn off more moderate independents in ways that would be just beneficial to Biden's reelection bid, which is very counterintuitive normally. But that's what happens when you move forward with an impeachment, when your investigation has been incapable of justifying that impeachment. And Ken Buck called this impeachment theater, as we've talked about in the past.
Why do you believe that Speaker McCarthy in the last 24, 36 hours has begun to lean more into the notion of opening an impeachment inquiry?
This is impeachment theater. We right now are starting the appropriations process, and there is not a consensus on the Republican side about what the numbers should be. Kevin McCarthy promised when he was running for Speaker one set of numbers, and then he made an agreement with President Biden for the debt ceiling increase on another set of numbers. So right now he is.
So he's saying that the impeachment theater is to distract from Republicans being able to effectively get what they want in the appropriations debate, and Kevin McCarthy is going to concede more than they would like, and so he's going to throw some red meat to the hardcore right-wingers in the party by being okay with the impeachment inquiry idea. And that's going to distract from his bad decisions with the decisions on appropriations, which we're approaching that kind of the heat of that season where the potential of a government shutdown is a big thing and the decisions on spending are being debated. And I thought it was interesting. I wanted to include in this segment because that's where he brought the conversation. Mitt Romney actually called out, because we're going to have impeachment going on, the debate over appropriations, and we're going to hear Republicans need to come in and get things under control spending wise because Democrats are so irresponsible. And Mitt Romney actually called out his own party's hypocrisy on this issue.
I become a little cynical here because my experience in Washington now is that there are some people who've gone to Washington to make noise, and there are others who went to Washington to make law and to get things done. And the noisemakers are becoming larger and larger. And interestingly, they seize on anything to make a lot of noise, whether or not it's really going to make a difference. And so, for instance, with regards to spending, when President Trump was president, you didn't hear anything from we Republicans about how we were spending too much and trillion-dollar deficits, quiet as little lambs. Now President Biden is president. Oh, we're going to shut down government if we don't rein in spending. Well, we do need to cut back on spending, but a little less hypocrisy would be a good thing.
A little less hypocrisy would be a good thing. I agree. And just that gives you a sense of we're entering into this moment where over the next few months, you're going to have the hardcore right-wingers wanting to impeach Biden and Marjorie out there shouting, ask the question, and Lauren Boebert saying, we've proved it, let's just do a floor vote, let's force a floor vote. And actually, we need the inquiry to prove the thing so that we have a justification for impeachment, or we already have a justification for impeachment. I'm not exactly sure. You're going to have that whole chaos going on. And then overlapping group of individuals within Congress saying, we're going to shut down the government if you don't cut spending by this much. That is the chaos you get when you elect these MAGA Republicans. That's what you get. And it's not benefiting the lives of people, but it's making a lot of noise, as Mitt Romney said. It's important to remember, too, as he's calling out, these aren't people of principle either. They'll say one thing here and one thing there. It doesn't matter. It's all about the noise making, about getting attention, getting on Fox News. And that's just about it. And as just a little note, I'll always remind you, when these conversations about debt and deficit and the Republicans need to come in and be the fiscally responsible ones, Democrats have a better record. Yes, as we talked about over the last number of decades when it comes to economic performance under different administrations, and also when it comes to fiscal responsibility. Smaller increases to the debt and deficit under Democratic administrations over the last 4 decades or something than Republican administrations. So the talking point that Republicans have to save us from the horrible, irresponsible Democrats is just not accurate based on the facts. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.